Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is now week 9 in the NFL, so we're back with my weekly NFL predictions. If you enjoy the content, make sure you do like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. With that being said, let's get to my week 9 NFL predictions. So, I'll be honest, it was a pretty decent week last week for us. So, only 4 games that we predicted wrong, so a ton more green on this page, which is always nice. So, we have the Bills beating the Buccaneers, Cowboys beating the Rams, kind of just blew them out. So good on the Cowboys there. Vikings beat the Packers. Yeah, Jordan Love's just not looking like the guy in my opinion. Titans beat the Falcons, which Will Levis looking very good. I'm not with everybody saying he's the GOAT and the best quarterback ever, but super great game for him. Great first game for him. Saints beat the Colts. Dolphins beat the Patriots. Jets beat the Giants in probably the worst game of the season so far, but win's a win for those Jets. Jaguars beat the Steelers. Eagles beat the Commanders. I told you guys that was going to be a trap game, and it almost turned into an upset. So almost Commanders, almost. Panthers beat the Texans. Yeah, that was also one of the worst games of the year, so just not a great game. My Seahawks beat the Browns. Win's a win. That's all we can say. A win is a win. We'll take it. Broncos finally beat the Chiefs after 16 attempts, so good for you, Broncos. Ravens beat the Cardinals. Bengals beat the Niners. Niners 3 losses in a row. Not looking super great, but their bye week came at a great time for them. Chargers beat the Bears, and Lions beat the Raiders, and the Raiders fired everybody after that game, so 12-4 on the week last week. Super good for us. So overall on the year, 72-49 after week 8. Pretty decent. I can't really complain. So yeah, that is our previous week recap. And now we're over to my weekly top 5 NFL rankings. So might be a little controversial, but coming in at number 5, I got the Cowboys. I'm very impressed with the Cowboys defense, and I think their offense is hit and miss, just depending on the week that they're playing, but they've been playing pretty solid, I would say, especially last week. I think they played very well. If they can continue that play, I think they can for sure win their division, but we'll see. Coming in at number 4, I got the Jaguars. Jaguars are just very hot right now. I'm not overly impressed with their offense in certain sequences, but they get it done, and I think their defense is super hungry. They are flying to the football quite often, so very impressed with the Jaguars. Coming in number 3, I got the Dolphins. I think they are the fastest team on paper. They just look super good. Their offense clicks very well. When everything's going right for this team, I think they are exactly where I have them, top 3 team in the country. So yeah, if they can continue that play, I expect this team to be pretty decent. Coming in at number 2 is the Ravens. I am very high on the Ravens. I think the Ravens' defense is good, and I think their offense gets the job done. So if they can just continue that, and Lamar continues to play kind of tremendously, he's playing much better than I anticipated. But if he can continue that up, I think this team will be very, very good. And number 1, shocker to nobody, is the Eagles. Eagles' best record right now. Yeah, I just think the Eagles have their shit together right now. So Eagles at number 1. And these are the teams on bye. So we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, the San Francisco 49ers, the Detroit Lions, and the Denver Broncos all on byes this week. Now over to the games that we are not discussing. For the early window of games, we're not discussing. Vikings at the Falcons. Yeah, I put the Falcons over the Vikings just because I don't trust the Vikings quarterback situation at the moment. So just can't really pick the Vikings in my opinion. I got the Browns over the Cardinals. Yeah, I think Browns just defense will not let the Cardinals win this game. So I got the Browns for sure. Rams Packers, I expect it to be slightly higher scoring just because the Rams defense it should be better than it is, but they're just not playing super well. So I expect it to be high scoring, but I do have the Rams winning 34-24 against the Packers. I have the Commanders beating the Patriots. I just think the Patriots kind of don't really have an identity right now, and I'm not super high on them. I think the Commanders will get the job done there. I have the Saints 31 over the Bears 24. I just think the Saints are a better team, and I'm not high on the Bears at all. I had the Buccaneers over the Texans. I think the Buccaneers are a better team than the Texans, but we'll just see what they can do offensively. The Buccaneers, I mean. And for the late window Sunday games, the Colts, I have the Colts over the Panthers. I just think Gardner Minshew will get the job done, and I don't think Bryce Young will be able to duplicate what he did last week. And for the final game we're not discussing, I have the Raiders over the Giants. The only reason I have the Raiders over the Giants is because they just fired everybody. So that team is going to play with a lot more. Is ferocity a word? Ferocity. They're going to be ferocious. They're going to be flying to the ball. And I'm very optimistic about this Raiders team. Maybe not overall throughout the entire season, but for this game, I definitely have the Raiders. And now over to the first game we are discussing. It is the Tennessee Titans at the Pittsburgh Steelers. So for the Titans, Will Levis gets his first official start this week. He threw for 3 touchdowns last week. I think it was just 3. Might have been 4, but he threw for at least 3 touchdowns last week. Played super well. Like I said, I am not ready to crown him the greatest quarterback of all time or anything, but he's definitely better than any option they have currently. So I'm very high, or I want to be very high on Will Levis, so we will see this week. I think they need to continue to lean on Derrick Henry, because if you have a good run game, especially with a rookie quarterback, I think this team can be very, very dangerous. So if they can continue to lean on Derrick Henry and get quality play out of Will Levis, this team's going to be very good in this division. I think their defensive line needs to continue its great play. They are playing super well. They get to the quarterback consistently every single week, so they just need to continue to do that. As for the Steelers, their offense is sluggish and super turnover prone. It is quite annoying to watch this team offensively. They don't show up until the second half, and it's when they don't show up in the second half, you get a game like last week where they're just ass and they just do not play well. I think they have no run game whatsoever. Najee Harris was supposed to be good for them, but I'm just not seeing it. He's just not playing well, not doing anything for this team. It feels like every single week. And I just think this team makes way too many mistakes, and I just don't think they're going to beat a lot of these higher quality opponents, especially come playoff time. So I'm just not super high on the Steelers right now. So I do have the Titans winning this one. I got the Titans 24, Steelers 20. Like I said, I'm just not high on this Steelers offense. If they can start to get it together, then we'll see. Our next game is our overseas game in Germany. It is the Miami Dolphins at the Kansas City Chiefs. So for the Dolphins, I think speed is your best friend offensively, Miami. You have so many dynamic and fast wide receivers and just skill positions in general on this team. Just feed them the ball, and you'll probably be in shootouts with a lot of teams, especially when you get to those better teams. So just continue to use speed as your greatest weapon, because you have an abundance of it, and it's just quite unstoppable, in my opinion. I think that if this team finds a run game, it will for sure be unstoppable. I'm not overly impressed with their running backs. I know their starting running back, he did get injured, so he has been out. But as soon as this team gets a run game, offensively, this team cannot be stopped, in my opinion. They are just super good. The only thing that can stop them is themselves and injuries, obviously. But if their defense can step it up and hold opponents, especially like the Bills, the Chiefs, all these other teams, if they can hold opponents, I think this team is going to be a tough out for sure. As for the Chiefs, I think Mahomes is just making too many mistakes last week, and you can say he was sick, all these other excuses that all the Chiefs fans are making, but he made a lot of mistakes last week. He is turning the ball over too much, and he is just forcing it to these wide receivers. And I'm not saying it's all on Patrick Mahomes, because his wide receivers drop the ball a ton. That's why I said one of my points is for them to find a wide receiver one, because they don't have one. And I don't think Sky Moore is the answer. I don't think Kadarius Toney is the answer. I just don't think they have the answer currently on this team. So they need to find it. And I know the trade deadline's gone, so you can't trade for anybody, but you got to find a wide receiver to help this offense somehow. And I think their run game just needs to continue to be leaned on with Pacheco. And if they can get a couple of their injured running backs back, I think this team can be very good. Probably make it back to the Super Bowl like I predicted at the beginning of the year. But I don't know. This offense is starting to worry me a little bit. But I still have the Chiefs winning this game. I think the Chiefs defense will hold them in this game. And I think the Dolphins defense will not be able to stop Patrick Mahomes, especially late game. And I think Patrick Mahomes will be a lot better than he was last week. So I have the Chiefs 27, Dolphins 23. Definitely leaning Chiefs in this game. Alrighty, in our first early window game on Sunday is the Seattle Seahawks at the Baltimore Ravens. So for the Seahawks, our offense is way too hot and cold. We scored 17 points in the first quarter last week and then did not score again until there was, I think it was 40 seconds left on the clock in the fourth quarter. Offense needs to remain hot or just remain warm. Get points on the board. Run the ball. Run the ball. Run the ball. I know that's what Pete Carroll wants to do, so run the ball. And I think if Geno can take care of the football, because there are certain moments where he is a little reckless with the ball, but there's also moments where the wide receivers are not running the correct routes or not finishing their routes. DK does that. JSN has been doing that. Jake Bobo and Tyler Lockett don't do that often enough for me to notice, but yeah, if we can just clean up our offense, I think this team is going to be super good, especially with the way our defense has been playing. I know Uchenna Nwosu he's injured. He's out for the year, but we signed, I'm so sorry, I'm blanking on his name, Leonard Williams, I think. Anyway, we signed a defensive lineman, and I'm super optimistic about it. So I think this defense can be elite. So we'll see. As for the Ravens, continue to lean on the run game, especially with Lamar. I think, especially this week against our defense, I think Lamar is going to run quite heavily, and I think it's going to work. I think the defense is good, but they just need to continue to try to get to the quarterback as much as they can. And I know it's pretty straightforward, but that's kind of it for this defense. I think the defense can continue to get to the quarterback. I think this team is super good, super tough to knock out the Ravens, and just continue to ball hawk in their secondary. Their secondary is definitely impressing me a lot more than I thought they would, and I'm very high on this Ravens team. I'm very optimistic. I think they look super good, and I do have the Ravens winning this game. I got the Ravens 27, Seahawks 20. I just don't think the Seahawks offense is going to bounce, not even bounce back. I just don't think the Seahawks will be able to do enough to win this game. I think this game will be a huge reality check for my Seahawks. Our late window game that we're discussing is probably the game of the week. The Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles. So for the Cowboys, Dak needs to just take care of the football. He played super well last week. Play like that every week, Dak. And I think this team will be just fine, doing so many good things. So just continue to do that. And you'll notice with the Cowboys, all of my points are offensively because I'm not worried about their defense. I think their defense will be just fine. Everything will be good, hunky-dory, all that shit. I think this team will be fine defensively. But if Dak can take care of the football, if they can find a run game with Pollard, I think Pollard needs a co-star. I sincerely think so. And if they continue to feed CeeDee Lamb, this team's going to be super good. If they can just get it together offensively, especially against good teams like the Eagles this week, I think this team can be very, very good. As for the Eagles, I think Hurts looked better last week. I think if he can play like that every week, I think this team will not lose. I think Jalen Hurts is just that dude. Their defense lets up a lot of points and lets up a lot of yards, but I think this offense keeps them in games, and they know how to win games for sure. And I think if they can find a run game with Swift, this team will be excellent in almost every single facet of the game, and just continue to feed AJ Brown. And man, AJ Brown is him. He is certainly a top 4 wide receiver in the game. So feed AJ Brown. These two teams are quite similar. I just think the Eagles offense is better. However, I think the Cowboys will for sure show up for this game. So I do have the Cowboys winning this game. This game, I expect it to be on the closer side. At least that's my expectation. But I do think the Cowboys will win this game because I think the Cowboys will show up for this game. So I got the Cowboys 31, Eagles 30. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles won, but I'm leaning Cowboys right now. Our next game is Sunday Night Football. It is the Buffalo Bills at the Cincinnati Bengals. So for the Bills, I think the offense is way too Josh Allen reliant. I think Josh Allen is a tremendous quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but he is trying to do too much. He does not need to be Superman. We say this almost every single week about Josh Allen, but don't do too much. You don't need to. Just certain moments, like pick your spots and game manage when you need to. And I think this offense will be very good. Very good. Don't give up on the run game. You need a run game. I know they just signed Leonard Fournette, so hopefully they can get some production out of their run game, but we'll see. And I think their defense just needs to get off the field, especially against the Bengals. Bengals are super good. especially during this win streak that they've been on. Their offense is very good at just staying on the field and being super annoying. So the defense, get off the field. Great game plan for them. As for the Bengals, I think Joe Burrow is back to normal. He is looking tremendous. He's running the ball. He is just so good. Looking like an MVP, but I'm not sure how in the conversation he will be, but we'll see. I think if they continue to feed Joe Mixon in the backfield, this team is going to be so good. Joe Mixon looked very good last week against the Niners, so yeah, I'm very, very optimistic on these Bengals. They just look super good. And if their defense continues to play hungry, I don't see very many teams beating this team. I think the Bengals are for real, and I think they are back. They look super, super good. I do have the Bengals winning this game. I got the Bengals 31, Bills 21. The only reason I have it being more than a 10-point game is because I just don't think the Bills will be able to do too much offensively, in my opinion. So I do have the Bengals winning Sunday Night Football. And now over to Monday Night Football. We have the LA Chargers at the New York Jets. So for the Chargers, I think Herbert needs to play like he did last week every week. I know that's not super sustainable, obviously, for the Chargers, but if he can do that, I think this team will be a tough out in most of their games. I think if they can find a run game with Austin Eckler, this team will be decent. It's kind of all I can really say. They're the Chargers. I'm just not overly optimistic about this team. And I think if their defense can make stops and stop making stupid mistakes, like a ton of penalties, I think this team can be pretty decent. But the Jets. So I think Breece Hall in the run game, they got to do something, man. They're not doing anything. The run game is so hit or miss for this team. They needed to hit, or you see games like last week, 13-10 in overtime against the Giants. You need a running game so you don't have to rely on Zach Wilson as heavily as they have been trying to. He's just incapable of doing that. He can't carry a team, but he can game manage, and I've seen it happen, especially like last week. He game managed and they walked away with a dub. So yeah, if this offensive line can protect Zach Wilson and Breece Hall in the run game can do something, this team can get dubs for sure. And if their defense continues to play as great as it has been, I think this team will be just fine. All right. I do have the Chargers winning this game. I'm struggling to pick the Jets in this game. So, as of right now, I gotta lean with the Chargers. And with that being said, that will conclude my Week 9 NFL predictions. What did you think of my picks? Any picks you agreed with me, disagreed with me? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next week with our Week 10 NFL predictions.